so excited to be here with you on this Coffee with Tyler. Man, it's been over a year. March 9th was actually the first time that we put any restrictions in place for COVID-19, March 9th of 2020. And here we are on March 20th, I believe the date is.
22.
22, thank you. March 22nd, and we're gathered around, having a cup of coffee. Looks a little bit different. Obviously the space is much bigger, socially distanced. Everybody brought their own cup as well as masks. So for those of you that are watching this, I am in front of my live studio audience, as I will call it. Hopefully you have all sorts of questions that I might be able to answer because, as you see, I'm without a notepad, but I do have my phone where I can take some notes and if necessary. So I guess I'll just start by giving a brief kind of COVID-19 update. Hopefully you all saw the memos on Thursday that were distributed. We currently have no staff and no residents that are positive for COVID-19. We also do have a number of restrictions that obviously are allowing us here today to gather. We still want to be socially distanced, but the dining room is open. We are allowing visitors into the community, both in the independent living and the assisted living, as well as we have been doing the memory support as well as skilled nursing areas. Those areas are still being held down in the fireplace room, and that's because we're still working through the protocols. We're just moving exceptionally precautious in those areas, especially on the 5th floor. When a resident admits to us from the hospital, we still have protocols in place for them to quarantine for 14 days. Although they've had a negative rapid test, we're just still staying very, very precautious because of obviously the compromised healthcare immune system. For some reason that they're in our 5th floor health center, they need to be there. We are looking, as I said right now, the state of Wisconsin. We have 4 state surveyors in the building going through their annual survey. They haven't been here for 2 years. We're going to walk through the protocols with them to share and show what we're doing in order to keep all our residents safe. Now that does mean if for some reason you or a loved one were to go into the hospital and come back to that 5th floor, we would ask that you hold off on visiting during that quarantine period. Again, I know that might seem a little backwards, but again, because of the regulations and because of the regulated nature of that building, we just want to stay extra precautious. So again, Lindsay Vigut, myself, we're working through that along with Wisconsin Leading Age and our Department of Health Services to see if we can mitigate that. But right now, we are taking the approach of just being extra cautious.
They allow you to visit in the hospital, don't they?
They do. So one person per day essentially is what you get. And so that's where we will most likely be looking at mirroring that. Now we do allow for residents to come down after that quarantine period, but really we just wanted to make sure our ducks were in a row before we lifted that regulation. But if you're on the 4th floor or something of that nature, by all means, we're able to help and make visits happen there. That's really it from COVID-19. Over 99% of the residents did receive both the first and second vaccine. To my knowledge, there was 1 resident, or 2 residents rather, that were actually contraindicated from their physician. And of course, that's the direction that the physician was told. Ms. McCannell, would you mind sitting in one of those chairs that's already set up? We're just trying to stay socially distanced.
Oh, sorry.
Thank you. By no means, you can sit.
No, but that's
So that's where we're at. Right now, you know that group sizes we're trying to limit to 20. Seeing where we're trending, and the good news that we have right now, we are looking at potentially expanding that here in the next couple of weeks. We're going to stay at least this week still with the current guidelines. Same thing with the dining room. By show of quick hands, how many have dined in the dining room
It's a treat.
so far? How many have dined in the dining room? Once? How is that going?
Wonderful.
I
Good.
think it's so good, and I can't figure out why more aren't there.
It's better than it was before.
Yeah.
Good.
That's right, you're
Good.
right.
I'm very glad to hear that.
I'm just wondering, right now, you can have a couple and a single.
Mm-hmm.
You can have two singles. You can't have three singles,
Mm-hmm.
and you can't have none.
Correct.
However, I'm just wondering when that would be possible for
Yep.
4 singles to be able to
Yep.
eat together.
So again, we're kind of, right now, Long County just opened up to 50% capacity. And so again, we are kind of mirroring that dining room. We also do know, obviously this population, you as residents have all received your second dose of the vaccine, which is why we're able to open some things up. But Katie, to your point, Carlos and I are talking about that. We do see that in the next couple of weeks, as long as we continue to trend in that direction. We're able to I guess, mix up, for lack of a better word, more individuals in increased capacity. But again, that's probably early to mid-April.
Okay.
So yesterday, Betty, who's hard of hearing, I sat there, and she sat there, and we didn't have any problem with the hearing, did we, Betty?
Right. So again, we're trying to, accommodate that to the best that we can, but at the same time wanting to make sure we're not just doing a full cannonball into the pool, as they say, but rather kind of dip our toes in, see how we're doing, make sure nothing is going awry, and then continuing to go forward. Also, as you saw, no visitors are allowed in the dining room at this time. Also, no visitors in the common areas or participating in regular activities at this time. Again, that's because I know you have all been vaccinated, and I know that we all have our protocols in place. The question obviously is for when we get into group settings with multiple other individuals, making sure we're still staying the course. So, again, I do look forward to hopefully expanding group sizes to essentially back to capacity, so about 40 is kind of, Lindsay Hall can hold it up to 80. Again, that's very tight, but 40 would allow for some larger gatherings. I kind of been tossing around with Laura and Carlos, kind of a kickoff to spring, new resident welcome, which I should have done, which I'll do here shortly, maybe in the patio area, just to kind of get back to that social cocktail type of hour that I know we all enjoy and enjoy mingling. So yes, just quickly to go around the room. Just, everybody knows everybody, right? Miss McCannell is...
I don't know everybody.
Okay, so Penny, when did you move in?
October 23rd, I think.
So, and Fiona, when did you move in?
July 30th.
Okay. So you two moved in during the quarantine time.
Oh, yes.
And so Penny and her husband, as well as Fiona, so they went through actually a 14-day kind of quarantine staycation period. And again, there's a number of new neighbors that have joined us during this quarantine period, and usually there's hallway gatherings, which I know many of you have taken on yourselves and introduced yourselves, but we'll need to get back to that. I know that we're having a new neighbor welcome next week. Wednesday this week.
Could
So,
you give us the protocol for those? I didn't realize that those are going to be.
yep, so we're looking to keep those to no more than 20 individuals, and we want to do those in Lindsay Hall.
No more than 20 is easy because there aren't that many people living on one floor.
Right, exactly. So,
And are you going to have tables up, or what do you?
Probably like this, huh?
yeah, yep.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So, and then again, everybody, are you doing any coffee or beverages, Polly?
Yeah, just coffee and water, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So again, trying to limit that face mask down and up,
Okay.
so to speak. So that's the protocol for right now. Lindsay Hall is obviously our greatest utilized hall, and so there's a lot of activity just based on the social distancing that we're able to do. So again, please do check with the front desk or Laura as kind of or Maureen. They are kind of the gatekeepers for us.
I did check with Laura,
Yep.
and she gave me the time.
Yep. Absolutely. So perfect. So yeah, that's kind of where we stand. From an apartment standpoint, we do have a number of apartments open right now. So the marketing team is working diligently at working with future prospective residents and neighbors, and we'll be moving forward with that. So yeah. What questions? Carla?
What's the length of the quarantine period?
So when somebody new moves in, we actually now are able to administer a rapid test, and they don't have to quarantine, as long as they have both vaccines as well. So a new resident moving in, if they prove that they've received both vaccines and they have a rapid test, so if they move in on Monday, they'll stay quarantined for that entire day. And then the next business day, a staff member will come and give them a rapid test that shows that they are negative, or obviously if they're positive, they go through quarantine. If somebody were to move in and they're symptomatic and they show up negative, we would still have them quarantined. We would do a second, what they call PCR test, which is an off-site lab that takes care of that, and then they would stay quarantined through that period. So again, we're not just, again, just because they're negative, but they still have a fever or a cough or something of that nature, doesn't mean that they would get out. But again, that's the protocol that we have in place.
And at what point what will determine the lifting of some of the restrictions?
So some of the restrictions will be lifted based on county protocol, so Milwaukee County and what they're doing, but also what we're doing here at East Castle Place and how we're trending. So there is guidance from the CDC. That's been the guidance that we followed for the last year plus. Then LCS, our management company, has protocols and guidance in place, and then it comes down to your local health department and what they're allowing or not allowing.
I think it was confusing last week when, I think it was on Friday, that it was announced that in Milwaukee County there could be visitations now in nursing homes.
Yep.
And I wondered, I can certainly understand why the fifth floor needs to be isolated. Would that mean that things will loosen up for visiting on the fourth floor?
Yes. However, what Milwaukee County also did by saying that, there were skilled nursing homes that weren't allowing visitors in, period. So we are allowing visits by appointment down in the fireplace room, and so we fell within that guidance. To your question about the fourth floor, when will you be able to go up? That is the plan, and I can probably tell you that in the next 2 weeks, that third and fourth floor will both open up to visitors. Because again, those individuals are not in isolation protocols or in a quarantine period. And again, with our friends that just visited in the state surveyors, a lot of the energy and efforts, but Lindsay was drafting a memo specific to the skilled nursing and memory support areas. What other questions?
I have a question about disposal of trash and recyclables on the third floor. Holy cow. It's really confusing because all of the containers say trash only, and yet above one of them it shows recycling. And I would like to know, can we get that standardized a little better?
Yes, so the question that Ms. McCall raised is, I think, a 3-year plus running question of the trash recycling. How do we do that? What can we do better? This was a large topic actually at the resident council meeting last Thursday, right, Augie? You were there. And the question was, to your point, there's trash containers, there's signs. Even when we have the right signs and the right recycling, there's still trash going into recycling and vice versa. How do we clean that up? And so again, that's been the age-long question. And the Green Committee, the Resident Green Committee is definitely focused on this. Eric Peterson and our security team at night are the ones responsible for leaving or for getting rid of the trash. Our waste management company for the last 3 months has been an absolute nightmare. I'll share that with you. They took our compactor away because it was broken, never replaced it. Then they came back, had it replaced and up and operating for less than a week. And then one of the garbage truck drivers decided to pull out the compactor without detaching it. And now it still sits in the same place because they had to run through insurance and we were getting to run around from waste management. I'm hoping that this week we'll have a solution. So again, there's a lot of logistics going to picking up the trash. But to your point specifically, can we replace the trash and recycling? And yes, I will walk with Ian this week to see how we can best line those up so that recycling is recycling, trash is trash.
I don't know that this will be helpful at all, but I came from Owatosa, and there we have different tops on our containers, so that the yellow one might be recycling and the green one is simply trash. Could we do something like that? Have a different color so that people would easily see which one would be trash and which one would be recycling?
Yeah, I can definitely ask our waste management group and see if they'll be willing to trade some things out. I think some of the garbage cans are different. One is blue, one is brown. Is that correct or no?
Green and brown.
Green and brown?
Yeah.
But they all have the same thing that says, we've got 3 trash.
Yeah.
And a little broken sign over on the wall that says recycle. And it's a nightmare on 4 also. It's really bad. And dirty, and people are giving up and piling stuff in the corner.
Right.
And last night I went with my husband there because he was confused by it too. And he just put things on the floor and I said, well, let's take a look. And so the one that was under the signs that said recycling looked like it really was just recycling. And so I put the rest of the recycling in that. I don't know if it will be clear to anybody else. A lot of cardboard boxes on the top, so it should be pretty evident. But yeah, it should be easy. It should be easy. We want to really encourage that.
Right. And so, again, we have and will continue to work through this. And it does take everyone. We've re-educated the private duty aides on trash and things of that nature. But yes, we can continue to work on that. Ms. Christopherson?
I think when we can have State of the Castle meetings in person, and we can talk about it too. I mean, we have the green one that says trash, and then the other one's recycling, and we're still good. We're getting styrofoam and the recycling, which is not recyclable.
And basically,
The
you
other
have
thing
to
is-
know what the recycling is. The items that
Well,
can be
there
recycled.
should be signs over the,
It should be fine.
so I think we're gonna have to revisit that one, everybody
Yeah.
can get together.
Mhm.
But the other thing is that they never seem to get washed out.
So they're supposed to get washed out at least once a week.
No way.
No.
So I will circle back with Eric on that, because that should be happening. So, we'll focus on that this week, to hopefully get them all cleared up and out.
Whose responsibility is it to wash the floor?
So that would be, the trash individuals, so security overnight
Well,
takes care of that, but then they can get support from the housekeeping team. So again, I'll chat with Ian after this and make sure we get them cleared out. Any other questions on trash and recycling? I think we could do a whole day seminar on this, from the number of conversations that have been had.
Yeah, but
I didn't hear what she said, but I would like to have the lid on the recycling container open.
Right.
Right.
Okay, and then the
we've
trash
addressed
lid,
that, we've addressed that before, but
right.
it never
So-
seems to get open.
So the recycling lid leave open, trash lid leave closed though, correct?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, all right,
Thank you.
you're welcome. What else is on everybody's mind? I'm gonna grab a sip of coffee.
So, within the next couple of weeks or so, you'll be able to have people come in to give programs? Is there a
Yes.
protocol for that too?
Yep. So that's something that Laura and I, we meet every week. And we were looking at mid-April for that, like around the 4/15th will give us a month of getting our protocols in place, making sure we're in the flow of it. And then essentially we would screen all the visitors like we do right now with temperature and things of that nature. And then they would, go through, and the only thing with that is, Laura and I kind of talked about, do we have to offer and ask the presenters to do it twice, one in the morning, one in the afternoon, for somebody that, is like, we're not having John Gerda here anytime soon that I'm aware of, but for anybody like that, who's the other presenter that we really enjoy?
Crane.
Tim Crane. That may have to change slightly, even on a go-forward basis, because again, 40 is really going to be pretty much the capacity in Lindsay Hall, but seeing what we can do there. So again, we do have that on the docket, and we are looking forward to bringing individuals back.
Now, we had on the fourth floor, and I think other floors were doing this too, just gathering, just the people on the floor, we gathered around the elevator.
Yep.
And that was shut down. We weren't allowed to do that. Can small groups like that of just the residents, can we start doing that?
Of course, absolutely.
Okay.
So, and I did put that clear in my memo this week for everybody, but small groups have been available for some time. The bridge groups can get back going, things of that nature. So absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. So.
I'm still confused, if we've all been vaccinated, why we have to wear our masks with each other?
Great question, Ms. Christopherson, and that again is just our best practice. It's something that I feel very strongly about. I've seen, and again, the research and science behind the masks is strong. And so, again, yes, the science is showing that the vaccine is very, very effective. But at the same time, this mask offers another added layer of protection because, again, I'm sure many of you aren't just isolating to just East Castle Place. You're going out to the store, you're going out to other areas, and again, you're going out to Wisconsin that, large in part, although we're doing a nice job, is over 80% of not fully vaccinated. And so there's always that potential for you, even though, yes, you're most likely masked in public, there's always that chance that you could bring something back to the community. Now, yes, you're going to say, well, Tyler, that's always going to be a possibility. But the possibility is just far too much right now because of that vaccination rate is too low. And again, for us, and because of we saw and we know how vulnerable the aged population is, and the effect that COVID-19 can have on our population, that's why we're just taking that extra precaution at this time. Do I hope that, come midsummer, where the vaccination rates are higher, that I won't have to mandate these masks in common areas? Yes, but right now these are still a part of us and will be for going forward.
When we get to take them off, can we bronze them?
Sure, absolutely. So,
What did she say?
Holly just said, once we take the masks off, can we bronze them in remembrance and have a little, should we have a little plaque?
Memorial.
Yeah. I heard the other thing that people want to do is have a burn party and throw all the masks in there. But we're not quite there either, so. But I do hope, you know, again, and I know that we are, and you are in a community, we are taking greater precautions, maybe even than what you feel is necessary. But again, putting the umbrella over the entire community is what I'm responsible for. And so that's where the board of directors, as well as myself, LCS, and even CDC guidance still states that, you know, mask wearing is your best defense, along obviously with the vaccine.
You kept us safe.
Yes, you did a good job.
Well, it was all of us. I mean, again,
I mean, I like it that we can be free of this in our own
oh yes,
place.
Absolutely.
But
So,
outside,
yeah,
I understand that.
But yeah, I mean, it's been over a year now, and it's been all of you. Again, it's not just myself. It's again a fantastic team that I work with, but then all of you, especially. I mean, to think back of where we were to where we've come, and being back around everybody in person is absolutely amazing. So it was all of us. So.
Tyler, I have a non-COVID question.
Great, I love that. And is it trash related? It's not trash related as well. All right.
It relates to something we haven't talked about for well over a year, and that is that there were some plans and committees formed to look at some remodeling of East Castle Place. And all of us were excited about that prospect and wondered if those plans are still in place. Granted, they had to be delayed, but just wondering how that stands.
Sure. So the question, and I'm just repeating it for the camera as well, was there was some discussion about remodeling and some renovation to spaces, and where are we at with that as that kind of progressed, and it is progressing. And it has throughout. I've been working closely with the board of directors. And so hopefully in the next 60 days or so, we'll be able to release some of that, what that looks like. And again, nothing has been determined as far as, you know, what flooring, what colors, what, you know, anything of that nature by any means. But there are things in place. AG Architects was hired pre-pandemic, and I continue to work with them throughout, as well as the board of directors. So again, hopefully in the next 60 days or so, we will be able to share some information. But no, to your point, the state of Wisconsin is our certification, recertification. They come on an annual basis. COVID obviously made them stop. We haven't been surveyed in close to 2 years. So they're doing their survey. They'll be with us for 3 to 4 days, looking at everything health center related, from the care to they're down in the kitchen this morning. They'll be looking at our emergency plans and policies in place. They'll be looking and meeting with a number of residents. Obviously, COVID is top of mind for them as well. But there's 4 surveyors here today, and they will be with us for the week. So.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
So Lindsay Page is our associate administrator. She's learning because this is something that, if you didn't know, Paige is going to become a licensed administrator. She takes her test here in the next couple of weeks, hopefully. And then Paige actually will be probably moving on from East Castle Place in probably the next 90 days or so. So it's been over a year that Paige has been with us, not quite, 8 months now, but as part of the Life Care Services program, she becomes a licensed administrator, and then she goes to where a community, there's a need. So an administrator opening or somewhere where she can continue to grow. So we obviously will miss Paige. Unfortunately, she didn't have that full resident kind of day-to-day experience, but she's gotten a ton of healthcare experience. She'll be working with the marketing team, so she's going to be very, very good. And very strong as a future administrator and future leader of an organization. So, but yes, we look forward to the state surveyors. They always come unannounced. They never let us know when they're coming, but that's why we're always what we call survey ready. So.
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
Sorry. To the remodeling, you started out with resident some resident input. What happened to that, or what's going to happen to that?
So we did gather resident input, and again, we've kind of been working in the background on some different items. As far as the resident input, that is yet to come. Those decisions have not been completely made yet. So as far as what spaces look like, what finishes, all those pieces, we are a long ways from that. It's still what we call very conceptual in nature. And so obviously the concept is big picture, and these are the directions we're going. We're kind of funneling down is what I'll call that. And so we're still very much at that high level of the funnel. And so then we'll as we continue to go down, we'll be gathering input from our current residents, from our future residents. Obviously, we have LCS development that we've been working with for the last 2+ years. And as a leader in senior living, they have a pretty strong knowledge as well. So, yes, we will be gathering resident input, and the board of directors obviously is also heavily involved.
So something's going to happen.
That is the goal, yes.
Are there plans to enlarge Lindsay Hall?
That is still up for kind of debate. I think right now it's not currently in the plans. However, the goal is to make this, I wouldn't call it open concept, but a space that can be flexible, and so more of those spaces where so we don't just have a Lindsay Hall, we have, also a dining room and a club room and a library that all can open up and work more cohesively, so to speak. What other questions? So there is, obviously this is the first of hopefully many coffees with Tyler. Hopefully we'll be able to, continue to progress with loosening our restrictions. Again, from a visitor standpoint, just because I know I have a pretty captive group here, we ask that you do sign your visitors up ahead of time. That's purely just for us. That is for tracking purposes in the event that somebody that's close to you, does turn COVID positive. We can do a better job tracking back down and tracing. Again, that's probably a step a little bit stricter than even other communities and Milwaukee counties even requiring. So that may go away. But again, just that extra precaution is also kind of that gatekeeper for us. We also initially limited it to an hour. If you read your memo, that was already pulled. If you want to visit for longer than an hour with your loved ones in your apartment, by all means, I just ask no overnight guests yet at this point. And then also we are limiting it to anybody over the age of 14. Just initially, my gut is telling me that will go away as well, and then all will be welcome here in the next couple of weeks. I really just didn't know, again, also how many individuals would be having visitors, and so I was trying to limit it that way as well. So again, that restriction most likely will be lifting here shortly. And then obviously nobody in the dining rooms, no visitors in the dining rooms. That's going to maintain until we get to what Katie, you were speaking about, more individuals were able to dine, with more singles and increase that occupancy of the dining room. And that's purely because it's for you. It's for you as residents, and I don't want a reservation taking up a spot of a resident that wants to dine in the dining room at this time. I do look forward to when we do allow visitors and get visitors back in the dining room, visitors back in the common areas. We're just a little too soon for that right now.
Can I ask a question? Mm-hmm. I was asked by my daughter-in-law whether she and probably the 2, but maybe 3 sons, my grandchildren, can come and visit on Easter Sunday. And I was told only 2 people could go into my apartment at one time, which makes it pretty difficult. And we understand we can't eat in the dining room, we understand that. But they are all over 14. They're all like late high school and college.
Sure.
Is it possible for them to come as a group to our apartment?
Yep, so you're a little ahead of me, but you'll be seeing, no, that's perfectly fine. So the question was raised, you know, I have a family that has 4 individuals, for instance, in this case. Can all 4 come at once? And so after this week of getting through another week of visitors, making sure we're still trending in the right direction, we'll also be lifting that 2-person minimum to at least 4. So by Easter Sunday, we'll be able to have 4 to 6 individuals in your apartment at one time. Again, that is based that we still do as much as we can social distancing and wearing our masks, again, from the outside. How can I monitor that? I can't. I'm not going to be in your apartments making sure everybody's wearing their mask, making sure you're not hugging and things of that nature. I assume that will happen. And again, that's the assumed risk, again, that we're taking. I hugged my family this weekend. I did not have a mask on. We were all vaccinated. So again, I'm just saying from my perspective, I trust you. I trust the circle that I'm around outside of East Castle Place. I trust that you also have a circle outside of East Castle Place and you will take precautions. The one thing, when I did gather, you know, nobody had temperatures. If somebody was sick, either myself or they weren't there. So again, taking those steps personally is something I think we're all personally responsible for. I cannot chaperone, nor do I want to, nor do I think I need to chaperone anybody here. We're all adults and all can make those decisions. And so I just ask to continue to make those strong decisions for yourself. Obviously, in your case, Mr. McCannell, if one of those grandsons or sons has a temperature or something, I would assume that you would say, you know what, don't come today. I'll see you when you're feeling better. And so again, it's those personal decisions. Now, if they do come to East Castle and one does have a temperature, they will be told not to enter.
Right.
We'll still go through that screening protocols. But again, that's what I'm asking of all residents here at East Castle Place is, and what we've done all along. And there's a certain amount of trust that I have, and I have had for over a year with each and every one of you. Because trust me, I know that during the last year you probably did gather and you did, you know, have your masks down at times, and I would expect that. Again, we're all humans, and so we need to start seeing some of that, what I'll call normal. And so again, we're going to continue to graduate as long as the trends are strong in Wisconsin, which again they are. Things are going down. I know that we had a little bit of an uptick from a positivity rate. Last week, I think we went from 350 cases up to around 500, but we're not in the 5,000 range or 1,000 range where we were when things were really bad back in October or so. So again, working through all of that. So continue to look for those memos. You will still receive weekly memos. Have those been helpful, those weekly memos that you receive in your mailboxes? Again, hopefully the guide was somewhat helpful and fairly clear for you. Again, any questions that anybody has, you're welcome to email, call, stop by my office, by all means. That's what we're here for. And again, I'm trying to make sure my directors actually have the information before you, because again, I know that I'm one person and I know that there's multiple directors that you interact with on an everyday basis. I want to make sure we're all speaking the same language. So again, any of the supervisors and directors here also are able to share that information with you. Staff receive an update every week as well. It's a little bit more staff specific, but also kind of where we're progressing with residents. And then of course, family members also do receive a letter as well, if I have their email addresses. So I have a group of about 70 that get emails from myself every week as well. So if you have a family member that they may want that family update, by all means, just provide me their email address and I'm happy to send that out. We do not do snail mail, just because by the time they probably get it, then it's probably already old news. So it's either email or bust for those. So yes.
Well, and I think we have to thank you again for all you've done for a whole year.
Oh, well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
For your availability. It really is.
Yes, very, very.
That open
open door policy is
Yeah.
really,
Yeah. Well, again, it's just what I've always had. I've been doing this for over 10 years, and I always feel that it's much easier to head things off when they're at the molehill stage as opposed to the mountain stage. And when you close out that door, it doesn't open up for those molehills to get taken care of, and usually makes it into a mountain where, you know, just having those fluid conversations. And again, even if you're watching this, if there's questions or concerns out there, it's way easier to say, hey, Tyler, I have a concern. That didn't quite make sense. Can you help me understand? As opposed to Tyler said something and then perseverate on it and continue on and start kind of gathering up different details. And so again, just wanting to make sure that that door is open for everyone.
We do appreciate it.
No, it's my pleasure. It's what I'm here for. So, well, thank you, everybody. It was great to see everybody. Stay safe, stay well. Enjoy the beautiful weather this Monday, Tuesday. I believe Wednesday, Thursday, Friday I saw rain. So.